and welcome everyone to today's TI talk. And the theme today is packaging design in a multi-dimensional world. And we're going to be discussing the intersection between digitization and circularity. As I guess you all know, we're all operating in an ever more complex and data-driven world. And at the same time, we've got very important environmental obligations to meet to integrate our products into a circular economy, including our packaged goods. I'd like to explore today what the opportunities are to leverage connectivity in packaging design to support sustainable transformation. And what are the keys to realizing this potential? So we have 4 speakers coming at this question from very, very different perspectives today. And maybe I'll ask each of you to just give a very quick 15-second introduction to who you are. Let's start with Jean-Emile.
Sure. So I'm Jean-Emile Potaufeux. I'm technical manager here, working for RecyClass, dedicated most of my activities to design for recycling of flexible packaging.
Thank you.
My name is Dominika Maruszak-Dankbaar, and I'm a part of the global R&D packaging at PepsiCo. And my focus is basically sustainability of the packaging and end-of-life solutions.
My name is Ulrike Danne, working for GS1 Germany. Maybe you know the barcodes behind on each product. That is the community which I'm working, so pretty much data-driven. But my background is coming from the packaging industry. So from that point of view, I have a good knowledge what have to be put as data into the new requirements.
I'm Joana-Maria Bauchwitz. I'm a designer, creative. I have an agency in Düsseldorf located, Baries Design, and I have a different point of view of all these things here, and it will be very interesting to know how my perspective will be.
Thanks, everyone. So I want to start by examining the key demands for packaging design from these very different vantage points that you have, and maybe begin with Joanna. What are the challenges you face as you say, a creative when you're trying to produce packaging for the market very much with the consumer in mind?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that we should see the brands from the holistic way, that we see the sustainability, the materials, the innovation, and all the stuff, and that we take all the stakeholders together. Because I notice that often I get a job or a project, and you have to build up a new design, and you have no insights to get what is the further the other suppliers in. So would be very important that we get all together. And I would say before pandemic, it was a bit better because it was sometimes so that we sit all together on one table and we discuss design and how does it work and what is important. And so we designers know directly, okay, this is what we take care about. So I think now it's super to have all the Teams call and so on. So it's easy, so all over the world to talk with. But on the other side, it is much better to have a closer, to get together and from scratch and what are the materials.
Thank you very much. And Jean-Emile, we're thinking about the decorative and the communicative purpose of packaging. You're thinking very much more about what happens to packaging once it reaches end of life. Do you see a tension between those two objectives, and what can we do to ensure that the design impact of packaging doesn't work in opposition to the environmental impact?
Now that's a complex question, of course, because I always say that when you look at the most complex part of a packaging to meet, let's say, the design for recycling requirements, printing or decorations in general is probably one of the top one. And this is something also that has been, I think, almost forgotten by the industry for a very long time, until a few years ago, where the first design for recycling recommendation came on, for instance, using polyurethane-based inks instead of nitrocellulose, reducing the amount of ink. Because, of course, when you look at what a recycler is recycling, he wants to recycle PE or PP. He doesn't want to recycle inks. And these could represent, for instance, up to 10% of the weight of a packaging. So this is far from being negligible. So there, as RecyClass, of course, our role is to, let's say, perform test campaign in order to help the entire value chain into, let's say, selecting the best design while still meeting consumer attraction, because of course the packaging has to be, let's say, bought at some point. So these two are not necessarily in conflict. It's just that, of course, we need to have a different perception, looking always for minimization, but there are now new technologies that exist that enable to have nice design, nice artwork, while still being sustainable or at least recyclable.
Thank you. And Dominika, as the brand owner on the panel, you're actually tasked with making decisions that meet the requirements of marketing, communication, but also functionality and also sustainability obligations. So what are the opportunities you see now as you're putting packaging on the market?
Yeah, so obviously starting from the beginning, we are at the packaging fair. And I guess I don't need to remind anyone that actually design is a functional role for packaging, right? And you can think about formats, you can think about actually structure and materials, but then the last one is obviously the artwork, which is the communication, right? And I think for me, all of them are connected. If you think about the structure, the first and foremost for people like ours is protecting our product. So we've seen obviously all the work of all brand owners. It's everybody is still busy to finish off, right, and comply with design for recycling. But we should never forget that we should protect our product, and this is the first priority. Obviously, consumer communication, proper labeling is important. So talking about inks, yes, we realize there is an impact, and we need to continue improving and addressing the systems that are more compatible. But at the same time, we should not forget that this is the interaction with consumer. This is our branding, right? So as you say, it's really about balancing that. But there are also elements like structure. So obviously, a few years ago, smart people decided, with this and this and this material, I can combine all these barriers together, and we ended up with multi-layer packaging. Now we are reversing basically what we started a few years back to ensure that we are compliant. And other element which is linked to this discussion obviously is traceability, right? So one example next to ensure you have the right structure, that you address your print, is also how you can ensure that we have sort of traceability, but also can use systems that can help us in the flow of the materials in terms of addressing sorting and recycling. And one of the examples, and I will cover on this in a moment, is watermarking technology that we are currently exploring.
Yeah, thank you. And that brings us towards the question of connectivity and the kind of data that we can bring from packaging. And Ulrike, I'd like to home in on that question of the data considerations. What do we need to think about when we think about packaging and packaged goods to make sure that we're fit for purpose in the future?
From my understanding, what will be key will be the data you transfer from one to each other. And if you get good, like you said, Jean, in terms of the value chain, I think it becomes for more important in the future to really drive data through different stakeholder, but also different data. So maybe data which you need for the recyclability, but Dominika, you don't need these data. Maybe you need different data. Also from the design point of view, let's say data. I think design should also done in the way that it follows the data needed stories. This is for me the future. This is for me the future principle behind. So I put there a lot of things inside, but I grab on what you said. It's even easier and better. And I know from GS1 point of view, we are doing this at least to a certain extent already. So hence, you know the barcode. Maybe you know also digital codes, which have the possibility to interlink more data inside, but also open it up for different channels in the way up to the digital product passport, which you mentioned afterwards, I think. And I think that will be key for the future to share data, and this is one of the things which is not so easy. Sometimes the people are trying to keep it as a secret. So for me, it's important to share the data, but you share it at the right point for the right people. So even from the consumer point of view, so how can I recycle my packaging afterwards, something like this. So that's the important point from my point of view, and there GS1 can help.
Thank you. Well, let's unpack some of the ideas that have been brought up in our initial thoughts. And I'd like to explore a little bit more the opportunities around connectivity in packaging. And Dominika already mentioned the Holy Grail project and digital watermarking. I'd like to ask you, Joanna, first of all, as a designer, how do you see the promise of something like digital watermarking?
I think it's very important that we try to enhance this watermarking and all this holy grail stuff, because from consumer side they need the transparency more and more. It's not only the packaging. It's not like a nice to have a wonderful packaging. It's more than that. They want to know where it's coming from and all this. And so if this something is a lighter one to take it on, like this watermark, it's not like a QR code and destroy packaging. From my point of view of creative, it's not so nice to have this code or QR code. And also when you go into selective market, that would be a wonderful idea to have. And on the other side, it's would be good for recycle reason and all for this further blockchain. We need this. We need this, and I think we can't close our eyes, and we have to educate also the consumers to this and all. Yeah.
And as a designer, does it kind of excite you creatively, the kind of things that you could do with that kind of digital watermark?
Yes. I think if from the brand owner, if they would use such watermarking or specialties in their materials, from my point of view, if I would know that, I would directly take this into my design. And this would be an add-on for the consumer side. If there is something like a disturber, something is to point on that, I think that's very, very helpful. I remember when the first time they say it's vegan. It was something that was so special. Wow, vegan. And then we take wonderful stickers on and so on. And so this makes this packaging so directly, yes, I will take this because it's vegan. And yes, for this idea, because from consumer side they are so easy. They want to have something they can rely on, and I want to buy something where I feel good. That's the main point. I want to feel good, and this we have to include. And when there's something special, we have to put it into our design. Yes.
Thank you. And staying with Holy Grail, Dominika. I know that you're involved directly with the Holy Grail 2030 consortium, and thinking, I guess, in a more practical way about how to implement and to realize the maybe transformational possibilities of it in terms of supporting circularity. What do you see as the key to the pathway of integration into packaging?
Yeah, so obviously Joanna mentioned one important point is that watermark can give different roles. So we can talk about interaction with consumer, we can talk about enhancing information, which now is becoming more and more important in terms of regulatory framework, right? We need to make sure that the consumers are clear in terms of labeling nutrition values or where the material is coming from. Is it recyclable? So that can help for sure. But talking specifically about Holy Grail project, I specifically represent the group that is focusing on the flexible packaging. So we talk about a specific pilot for Belgium market. And for those that are not familiar with watermarking, basically it's a coding that is applied in the printing, and it's across the entire surface of the packaging, but it can be easily detected. And you can decide what information actually you are including in your watermark, right? So it's a discretion of the members to decide what attributes I actually want to include, which links also later on to GS1. You can say, you know, my packaging is food contact or not, or it's surface printed or not, or uses NC inks or not, and any other elements you would like to include. So the attributes will be captured in the watermark. And how we are utilizing it is basically for the sorting trials. So as you know, we are in the space where we will need to introduce recycled content in our packaging, right? And I think the industry is very keen to unlock what's that future technology for recycling of our materials that will create high yield, lower GHG, and also food contact safe material. And we are looking into different partners and the recyclers who have the potential to actually deliver this technology. And this process is basically where we implement the watermark, we will sort the material for specific fraction, in this case food contact PP flexibles, and then we will submit it to the different recycling trials. And this is basically to future-wise enable chances for technologies that have the potential of high decontamination to also have an additional proof point that this feedstock was controlled. But I know that it's also being looked at providers that produce rigid plastic packaging, because you can also think about elements like MFI. I want to have PP of this MFI recycled to this fraction versus this one. So obviously it's being expanded, and there is another substream which is focused on the rigid PP as well. But these are obviously the avenues we are exploring. So it's not implemented yet, it's a pilot, but I think it's very important pilot in which we want to address and understand what could be the potential, and obviously if there is a business case to make a sustainable system.
Yeah. And could you speak a bit also, Dominika, about the potential of the technology for satisfying the reporting that needs to come from PPWR?
So obviously, you mean the product passport? Or? Yeah. Okay. Obviously, having watermark can definitely help that, right? Because I think each company is right now busy with preparation of declaration of compliance. That's one of the elements, which requires a lot of data pool and ensuring that data is robust and accurate. So systems like that, where you have a traceable blockchain, can help you actually to pull on demand the information rather than manual entry, and ensuring that you can fulfill your declarations. So definitely yes.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to talk about the broader systems and maybe technologies that we need to ensure that we can deploy the kind of traceability that we need for recycled materials. And Jean-Emile, what do you think are the most important steps that we need in relation to digital product passports?
So this is, I completely agree with what Dominika just said. We need to have reliable, robust information that where we are sure of their origin as well. So there, the blockchain technology, which can be, of course, supported, for instance, by digital watermarking, is key. So in RecyClass, actually, we also thought about this technology to support the traceability of PCR, so of recycled plastics. Knowing, of course, that by 2030, all plastic packaging put on the market will need to contain a certain amount of PCR, we can question ourselves about the robustness of the declaration from the origins there. So we need to make sure that this will be reliable. So we launched actually this project a few months ago about having digital traceability, so building a complete new platform which could be indeed, of course, supporting the digital product passport development. So the idea is really to have something that would be interoperable, that would be also there to avoid any kind of misuse, and also to ensure that communication from a raw material producer to a converter to final brand owners will be correct. So there, at the end, of course, the objective is to make sure that when someone is claiming, for instance, that there is 30% of PCR in their packaging, that this is true and that we can trace the origin of it, which is, of course, also even more important when we talk about, for instance, food contact packaging.
Thank you. And when is that project going to come to fruition? What are the timelines for it?
So technically speaking, we are still looking for sponsors. We already have a major company. So of course, I invite you all to reach out to me if you are interested. So because this is not only true for plastic packaging, this is something that is valid for the full plastic industry. That means we have also actors working outside of that field that are already raising interest. From a timing perspective, looking at, of course, the deadline we have for 2030, that means this project should be technically available, let's say, by the end of next year or beginning 2028. That's what we are targeting.
Okay, thank you. So back to Ulrike. We've talked a lot about the massive data that we may be generating in this more connected future. And you've already begun to allude to how important it is that we manage this with the right kind of data architecture. What are the barriers to and the pitfalls that you see potentially arising, and how should we be preparing ourselves to solve these?
I think one of the barriers will be to share the data and not fearing is, let's say, silo-driven data. That's for me the key point for success, depending on the PP, let's say, taking PPWRW inside, but also the industry itself. So it's not anymore the silo which brings you one step forward or keeping the data in your field. It is the matter of sharing the right data at the right time. So not for everybody. For example, the consumer don't need any information about recyclability in terms of percentage, but they have to know different things. So this means to make the data in front of the one who needs the right data. That's for me the important part. And we need, in any case, the data. Like you said, Jean, and also Dominika, you said this. It's the game of the name of the game will be traceable, trackable, reliable, standardized data, which you can share across the complete industry.
Thank you. In a moment, we're going to invite all of you to share questions to our experts. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Not yet, but I know sometimes if I say, where are the questions, and everyone feels shy, but I'm giving you a moment to prepare yourselves, and we'll go to you at the back here first. But before we do that, I just wanted to ask each of you to maybe give a last thought to the audience, maybe a kind of call to action, reflecting how you think we as an industry should be preparing to move into a more connected and a more circular future. What are the problems that we should be trying to look out for and avoid, or the actions that we should be taking? Let's start with Joana.
I think it is very important that we start to have a closer conversation together from all stakeholders, that we sit together in the beginning. So maybe maybe a brand owner that that you give for designers or for the creative part a bit of time, and that you include this in the machinery till the product comes to life. Because I think it's the main key point that went wrong in all of the time, that you do a lot of effort to put a brand into the shelf, but you don't think about the right design, and then you see, okay, it doesn't work, and then you throw it away. So in before, give it a bit more time. All stakeholders are together. What kind of materials do we have? How is the supplier chain? So I think that would help a lot from my side.
That's a good point. And I think as well, there's quite a lot of internal silos from observing, for example, Holy Grail. The sustainability team might have a very different view of that technology to the marketing team and the financial part of the business. And in fact, there are possibilities to accrue value in each of those areas, but for different reasons. So yeah, I think better communication is a very important one.
And sometimes also in person, that would help a lot, and not only teams.
Pre-COVID ethos, yeah. Ulrike.
I follow that what you stated 100% is also on my list. The bigger challenge is not the technology which we have already, or let's say we would use already. It is the data harmonization and the collaboration. And collaboration, like you stated, together, otherwise it will not work. And we have to break down already silos which are in, either to convince the people to share the data, or by regulation, it can come, PPWR, we are all, to be forced to let's say, share that kind of data.
Okay. Before I will put a request, I also want to give the credit to the industry, because I think we've gone a long journey. And if you think back about a few years, there was no way that brand owner was going to the recycler or waste manager and looking into the waste stream, right? So I think it's time also to give ourselves some credit that we are actually open and understand other part of value chain. Yeah? But we need to definitely continue and strengthen it. And I think being open to pilot, even with the risk of failing, because this is the only way we can learn and understand. And we need the right data points to navigate, take the right decision for the future, and set up our infrastructure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, so indeed, when you look at where we were a few years ago and where we are today, I think there is definitely hope to have, so we could meet the target for 2030. Now, I would also want definitely everyone to not slow down and also not to, let's say, lie to themselves. If you look around, not here, of course, but you might find sometimes PPWR compliant messages, which are, of course, definitely questionable at that stage. So just to say, please, let's continue. Both on recyclability, a lot has been done, but a lot still needs to be done. Collaboration there is, of course, key in order to help then the brand owners, of course, to meet the targets. And for the PCR, indeed, there we need also the recyclers to, let's say, be able to produce the good quality we need. And this comes first with a design for recycling, but then also with efforts on traceability, as I mentioned before.
Thank you. All right. So we promised to go to the lady at the back who was very, very quick with the hand up.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the great discussion. And since I have here now all the experts, yeah, maybe you can give also an advice. My name is Nicole Kambeck from Mitsubishi Chemical. We are a B2B player in the packaging market as well. And it's clear the digital product passport will come, and a lot of data has to be passed on the value chain, be it LCA, SOC, SVHC, whatever. Yeah, and it's clear at the moment we share that via email. But for me, the DPP is still very abstract. Yeah, we don't know as a B2B provider how can we best prepare for that. So what does it mean regarding digital solution? Where could we start? It's clear that we have to start upstream to get the right data in. But what is the right data? And then looking to downstream, yeah, what is the technical solution? So what would you recommend us to start here in the first place?
I would try to answer, but I'm open that you support me in that kind of direction. Hence, it's a complicated question. I think the traceability of the plastic material itself, we opened up with the Holy Grail. There are other possibilities. There was also one project which is so-called RecyClass, which is coming from the base of the converter and starting already at the point of the plastic material itself. So, and there the data sharing starts. And if you look inside of this project and there's a site available, you find exactly what you asked for that point of industry. Not solving the PCR topic, which Jean mentioned, that is for me something also which is very specific, and hopefully we find their solutions as well.
Thank you. I will do that.
Chakravarti.
Yeah, well, a wonderful panel. Compliments to Tim and the entire panel. This is a generic question, but it is really burning me for a long time. Are we at the risk of designing a sustainable packaging? Rather, it looks sustainable for the consumers, but while we improvise, while we develop the metrics, it's really far away from meeting the circularity.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. For plastic packaging, I should say that there are definitely a lot of circular examples. So if you look, of course, PET bottles, now tray-to-tray exist as well. For films, of course, PE films can go back to film. To food application today is definitely too much asking. But there are novel technologies on their way, so we can think about a brighter future. Then the question is, will that be on time for 2030? I cannot guess. I don't have a crystal ball. I understand there can be some fear on that. And for PP films, we see also there something that a few years ago was, let's say, unbelievable. You know, talking about PP film circularity, now we see mono-material stream in some sorting centers with pure PP film fractions. So I guess this will improve. Then indeed, let's see where we will be in 2030.
Absolutely, John. Actually, there are a lot is happening around the world. I fully agree. Compliments to everybody. But somewhere in the race, I think we are losing. There are two components. To please the consumers, we are saying we are sustainable. The second is following the regulations. I think there is a fine line between both. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on this one, obviously with PPWR and the recyclability assessment method, we need to be compliant. So it's not that we will try to please by communication and saying we are designed for recycling. We will have to be, otherwise we will be banned from the market. So that's step number one. And obviously betting on technologies of the future and ensuring that in this transition we can obtain this food contact approval at one point is obviously our goal.
Thank you. And Uwe at the front here.
Thank you, first of all, for this great talk. It was really, really interesting. Thank you very much. I have a question. I'm a designer for packaging innovation, and I have a question regarding the connected packaging. So you talked about the Holy Grail project. I know what GS1 is doing. So I'm wondering, does it conflict? I mean, the Project Sunrise with the QR code, does it tie in with Holy Grail, or do we have both then on a package? Do we need for the cash test to read it?
Might be that we have two. Hence, the Holy Grail or the watermark is really the driver there, or the usage case there is on the plastic material. And I'm talking about from the product perspective in the first glance, but also going down to the packaging from a GS1 perspective, it's also possible. And of course, if the Holy Grail project is flying, we have to sit together to find a connector that we have a standardized, what I'm started with, a standardized and harmonized way how we exchange data, and they should be exchangeable. So, and also integrated. If you look then, if we think that the product passport is the end of the game in terms of data, then it should be incorporated there.
Thank you very much. Question answered.
You're welcome.
But there's also, well, customer activation and so on, but that's something for later. Thank you very much.
Any more questions from the audience? Looks like everyone's curiosity is satisfied for today. So thank you very much for coming to this TI talk, and thank you to Joana, Ulrike, Dominika, and Jean-Emile. Thank you.